Afternoon session 12:01 p.m. Jury not present.
Ms. Schrofa said, "Your Honor, the witness is in the box."
The court said, "Ma'am, if you would step out, please. In my normal courtroom, the witness is to my right, so I'm not used to looking this way. If you could step out, please. So I'm going to read into the record the decision that I made with respect to the issue that we discussed at the sidebar on May 14th at our final pretrial conference. I stated I have received a letter from the government dated yesterday seeking to preclude Mr. Gov't from invoking a presence of counsel defense. Mr. Gov't has stated that he does not intend to formally assert an advice of counsel defense, but reserves the right to present evidence of testimony regarding his awareness that legal counsel was involved in certain transactions. I agree with the government that this evidence may be irrelevant and risks confusing the jury. If Mr. Gov't had asserted the advice of counsel defense, he would have been required to disclose his communications with his attorney to determine if he fully and honestly laid out all the facts, and if he followed his attorney's advice. United States v. Scully 877 F.3d, 464, 476, 2nd Circuit 2017. Having chosen not to assert such a defense, Mr. Gov't cannot now use the presence of attorneys as both a shield and a sword. Accordingly, I will follow the approach utilized by Judge Catherine Forrest in SEC v. Tour, 950 F. Sub 2D, 666, 684-85, SDN. Y 2013. That is, counsel for the defense will not be precluded altogether from saying the words counsel, lawyer or attorney, but will not be permitted to zero in on the presence or involvement of lawyers for the sake of highlighting their presence or involvement. ID at 685. The court will preclude evidence that solely shows that lawyers attended or set up meetings, which is irrelevant. And the court will give a limiting instruction if Mr. Gov't references the presence or involvement of lawyers. And so I think that this is exactly, Ms. Schroff, what you were doing, highlighting the presence of attorneys, and that it was irrelevant, and I am going to give a limiting instruction. This is what I propose to state to the jury. The fact that lawyers were present on an email chain does not establish the legality of any individual's actions. Any comments, questions?
Mr. Ferguson said, "May we have one moment?"
Counsel conferred.
Ms. Schrofa said, "Your Honor, first, I misread the court's order, so I apologize. And obviously, I just misread the order because I read it to attempted meetings and set up, but it's my error. It's my error. I just want to make sure that was clear. But could the court please read the language again for me?"
The court said, "The fact that lawyers were present on an email chain does not establish the legality of any person's actions."
Ms. Schrofa said, "The defense has no objection."
Mr. Ferguson said, "Nor do we, Your Honor."
The court said, "So have the jurors brought in, please."
Continued on next page.
The law clerk said, "Jury entering."
Jury present.
The court said, "Please be seated, and would you have the witness brought back?" Members of the jury, I want to point something out to you. The fact that lawyers were present on an email chain does not establish the legality of any person's actions. Remember that you're still under oath, Ms. Lee, and you may continue your inquiry.
Ms. Schrofa said, "Thank you, Your Honor."
By Ms. Schrofa.
May I go back to GXVI 110? Ms. Lee, you recall testifying about this document, correct?
Yes.
And again, if you could just keep your voice up, that would be helpful. This is a document. You would agree, right? Between Club Me Limited and HA, right?
I'm not agree.
You don't agree with the title that says Loan Agreement between G Club Me Limited and HA Group Party Limited?
No.
That's not the document before you?
It is, but it's not a real loan agreement.
My question was, is that the document before you?
Yes.
And you testified about this document on direct, correct?
Yes.
And sitting here today, Ms. Lee, do you have any knowledge of who Mr. Govt's institutional investors were in Abu Dhabi?
William J.
Who other than William J. that you know were institutional investors?
Hamilton Farm.
Okay, that's still William J., but who else?
I don't know.
Is it fair to say that the only information you have is about William J., correct?
Yes.
And you have no knowledge whether or not Mr. Gov't applied for a management consulting license to the H Reserve in Abu Dhabi.
Under Miles' direction.
What was under Miles' direction?
H Reserve and what you said, the license in Abu Dhabi.
So you know he applied for such a license in September 2nd?
He sends supporters to apply it.
Could you let me finish my question? Would that be possible?
Yes.
So my question was, were you aware that Mr. Gov't applied for a management consulting license to H Reserve on September 2nd of 2022?
Mr. Ferguson said, Your Honor, she answered this question.
The court said, sustained.
And that license was granted, correct?
I don't know.
Do you know if the H Reserve was negotiating with banks and finance licenses with UAE at the same time?
I don't know.
Do you know whether or not in September of 2022, they were moving over the exchange to the United Arab Emirates, the H exchange?
I know the move, but I don't know exact date.
You know the move, correct?
Yes.
But you don't know whether it was in September of 2022?
Yes.
So you don't know if it was September 2nd of 2022?
I don't know.
If I could show her, please, GXVI 110. I'm sorry. The second page and then the last page. You see your signature down there, correct?
Yes.
And you're assigned as the lender, right?
Yes.
And you testified on direct that you did not read this document at all, correct?
Yes.
The prosecutor asked you questions about this document, and you just answered them, right?
Yes.
And under this document, no one was required to buy any new cards, correct?
Yes.
And you would agree with me, would you not, that there's nothing illegal about opening up a company in Abu Dhabi?
Mr. Ferguson said, Objection. She can't testify to legal.
The court said, sustained. She's not here to give testimony about the law.
Do you think companies exist in Abu Dhabi?
Sorry.
Do you think companies exist in Abu Dhabi?
Yeah.
And people do business with companies in Abu Dhabi, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And you knew Miles Gov't to do business with Abu Dhabi, correct?
Yes.
And you knew that over a period of 7 years, correct? 'Cause you worked for him, as you said, for 7 years, right?
Mr. Ferguson said, Your Honor, she needs to be able to answer the question before another one is posed.
The court said, that's right. Let her answer the question.
I don't know.
Okay. Now, Mr. Ferguson over here asked you questions, did he not? About the euros reference in this document, correct? Can we show her the reference to euros? You see right there. The loan amount?
Yes.
And he zeroed in on that line, right? Correct?
Yes.
You remember that yesterday you testified to this line?
Yes.
It will really help me out if you use the mic, then I won't speak while you're still thinking.
Okay.
Thank you. So you testified that you believed that business was being done with euros because euros, unlike dollars, could not be traced. Right? That was your testimony?
Yes.
So, Ms. Lee, is it your understanding that the only currency that can be traced are US dollars?
Sorry.
Is it your understanding that the only currency that can be traced are US dollars?
I don't know.
Right. Somebody sends money in euros from one bank to another. There's still a digital transaction created, right?
Yes.
And you can follow that transaction, correct?
I don't know.
So isn't it possible that the reason the currency is a euro is because
Mr. Ferguson said, Objection.
that was the currency in which business was being done?
The court said, sustained. This is not the type of hypothetical question that she should be asked.
You testified on direct, correct, Ms. Lee, that you signed documents. And I use your words here, the alliance asked me to sign, so I sign with them, correct?
Yes.
And you?
Alliance also asked me to send euro, but I couldn't send. I still send US dollar, but the contract is euro. It's not match what the dollar I send. I send US dollar.
Ms. Lee, I ask you no such question. Ms. Shrofa said, I move to strike, Your Honor.
The court said, the answer is stricken.
Did you or did you not say on direct testimony that when the alliance asked me to sign, so I have to sign with them? That's what you said, right?
Yeah.
And then you stated, did you not, that you signed a loan agreement because Lao Banjiang asked you to sign it?
Mr. Ferguson said, objection to the slight mischaracterization. It wasn't a loan agreement.
The court said, overruled. You may answer.
No, Wang Kansas. Wang can ask me to sign this document. Wang Can is in charge of Alliance Finance.
What was Mr. Zhang's role?
Who?
Lao Banjiang.
He sent the document, asked me to sign off this line, write off this loan.
So he asked you to write off the loan, correct?
Yeah.
Did you write off the loan, by the way?
Yes.
And did you do that because you wanted to write off the loan or because the Alliance?
Because Alliance asked me to sign.
So he was the Alliance in your mind, correct?
Yes.
And he was at one point the head of the New Zealand farm, correct?
Yes.
And he's actually a good friend of yours, right?
No.
He wasn't a good friend of yours when he sent you this document?
No, it's just supporters.
I'm sorry.
We just all supporters.
Well, yes, he was a supporter, correct?
Yes.
And you were more friendly with some supporters than others, right?
No.
You were the same friends with all the supporters everywhere?
No.
I'm sorry.
No.
But you testified on direct also that you thought these supporters were all family, correct?
Yes.
So you were friendly with him, correct?
I friendly with everyone.
Everyone the same amount?
Yeah.
No better friend, no worse friend?
No.
And he was with you in the Iron Blood group, correct?
Yes.
And he's the person to whom you sold one of your companies, correct?
Sorry.
He is the person to whom you sold one of your companies, correct?
I don't know what you're talking about.
Did you transfer one of your companies to him?
The fund, yes.
Which one?
Ashwood Fund.
Whose fund was that?
Sorry.
Whose fund was Ashwood?
It's set up under Miles Guo's direction.
I didn't ask you that. Ms. Schrofa said, so moved to strike.
The court said, sustained.
My question to you was, Ms. Lee, whose fund was that?
Alliance Fund.
It was Alliance's fund. Was there a management fee on that fund?
I don't know.
You got the management fee cause it was your fund, right?
No, this Alliance Fund.
It's your name on the corporate documents for Ashwood, correct?
Yes.
It's your signature, correct?
Yes.
You're the ultimate beneficial owner, correct?
No.
Really?
Yes.
Who else's signature is on the certificate of incorporation?
I don't remember.
You don't remember. Is there a name such as the Alliance on the documents?
I don't remember.
How long did you manage the Ashwood Fund?
I don't remember.
1 year?
I don't remember.
2 years?
I don't remember.
How much management fee did you get?
I don't remember.
Did you get a management fee?
I don't remember. I don't get.
There is no question pending, ma'am. You testified, did you not, Ms. Lee? Right that Mr. Gov't over there asked you to delete and change phone numbers, correct?
Delete messages and change phone numbers? Yes.
So he asked you to delete information from your phone, correct? That was your testimony?
Yes.
And he asked you to change phone numbers, correct?
Yes.
And he did that with almost everyone, right?
Sorry.
And he did that with almost everyone, correct?
I don't know.
He would put that message in the WhatsApp group, correct?
What message?
That his phone was hacked. Everybody changed their number?
I don't know.
And he explained to you why his phone was being hacked, right?
Yes.
And what was the explanation he gave you?
The CCP hacked his phone.
And he would then change his number, correct?
Yes.
And you sometimes changed your number, or you didn't change your number, right?
What do you mean?
When Mr. Gov't would tell you to change your number, did you always change your number?
Yeah, I get a new number.
You'd get a new number, right?
Yeah.
And you kept one phone for Mr. Gov't and another phone for everyone else. Is that true?
No.
So you just changed the phone number that you had all the time, right?
Yeah.
And you testified that he told you to delete messages and you deleted them, correct?
Yeah.
And then you testified, but you kept some direct messages with Miles Gwa, correct?
I kept all direct message with Miles Gwa.
So even though he asked you, according to you, to delete everything, you kept the messages directly with Miles Gwa, correct?
Yes.
You saved all of them, but you deleted everything else. That's your testimony, right?
No, I didn't delete everything else, just group messages.
Group messages. So what did you do if he was in the group? Did you keep that message or did you delete it?
I keep the direct messages.
Do you remember testifying yesterday where you said I delete most of them? I keep some direct messages with Miles Gwa?
Yes.
So that was yesterday. Today you're saying you kept all of his direct messages, so which one is correct?
Both. Yesterday I mean the most means including the group messages, but I keep his direct messages. That's what I mean.
But you said, and I quote, and I keep some direct message with Miles Gwa.
Mr. Ferguson said, objection, asked and answered.
The court said, asked and answered. Sustained.
Ms. Schrofa said, Your Honor, just for the record, that's from trial testimony 1502.
The court said, I did not hear you.
Ms. Schrofa said, just for the record, that was yesterday's trial testimony 1502. Now, you were in a WhatsApp group, right?
Yes.
And you're familiar with the application WhatsApp, right? You use the application, right?
Yes.
You have to download it from the Apple Store and use it, right?
Yes.
You can set up your account, correct?
Yes.
You can choose your photo, correct?
Yes.
And you can use delete disappearing messages, right?
I don't know. I don't use.
You don't use WhatsApp or you don't use the function.
I don't use that function.
But the function is there, right?
Yeah.
Now, you testified about Mr. Gwa's arrest, correct?
Yes.
And then you testified about reading the indictment, right?
Sorry.
You testified, did you not, that you read the indictment against Mr. Gwa, right?
I read or I don't read? What do you mean?
You tell me if you read it or you didn't read it.
When?
The indictment.
When I read it?
I'm asking you. Did you read it?
What's your question?
Did you read the indictment against Miles Gwa?
Yes.
Do you remember what the date of the indictment was?
15th of March.
What year?
2023.
And after the 15th of March, 2023, you remained a farm leader, correct?
Yes.
You remained in the Iron Blood Group, correct?
Yes.
You continued working for the Alliance, correct?
Yes.
And throughout that time, you never went to any authorities to alert them to a potential fraud, right?
Mr. Ferguson said, objection to form on the throughout that time.
The court said, what time are you referring to?
In March of 2023, you didn't go, right, to any authority saying there's a fraud?
Sorry, which day?
In March of 2023, after the indictment against Mr. Gwa, you did not go to any authority and say, Mr. Gwa, there is a scam, correct?
Yeah.
Right. Not in March, April, May, June, July, correct?
Yeah.
Not in August, correct?
Yes.
When was the first time you went to the authorities?
I don't remember.
You don't even remember, right?
Around August, September, October.
August or September of 2023, correct?
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Yes.
Between March 15th and August, right, you continued to set up entities, correct?
No.
Really? You didn't set up any entities between that time from March 15th onward?
No.
How about for G-Fashion?
G-Fashion?
Yes.
No.
Did you continue to run your fund, the Ashwood Fund? You continued to manage it, correct?
No, we have manager.
You had a manager for your fund?
Yes.
What's the manager's name?
Richard.
And he continued to run the fund for you, right?
Yeah, not for me, for the Alliance.
Well, the fund is in your name, right?
Yeah.
Where does Richard live, by the way?
Mr. Ferguson said, Your Honor.
Ms. Schrofa said, it shows the relationship.
Mr. Ferguson said, can we say at a high level where he lives?
Ms. Shrofa said, it is at a high level.
The court said generally yes.
Which country does he live in?
Australia.
You have his phone number in your phone?
Sorry.
You have his phone number in your phone, correct?
Yeah.
The Alliance doesn't have his phone number?
Alliance of course have. He's one of the members.
But the Alliance in general doesn't have his phone number as the manager of your fund, right?
Mr. Ferguson said, objection to form, and asked and answered.
The court said, sustained.
Who got the management fee from the Ashwood Fund?
Mr. Ferguson said, asked and answered.
The court said, sustained.
How about the HA Fund?
What do you mean, how about what?
How about the HA Fund?
For what?
Were you talking? Go ahead.
About HAA fund what?
I was getting there. So between March 15th of 2023 and August, when you went to the authorities, you continued to manage the HA fund, correct?
On behalf of Alliance.
You've said that. My question to you is whether you continued to manage it?
Mr. Ferguson said, Your Honor, she can't argue with the witness. She can ask the questions.
The court said, sustained.
Did you manage the fund?
Mr. Ferguson said, asked and answered.
The court said, sustained.
You continued to pay expenses, correct? And I'm still talking about the period between March 15th and August. You paid expenses, right?
Mr. Ferguson said, objection to form.
The court said, in connection with what specifically?
Huh?
I don't remember.
How about expenses pertaining to Ashwood?
Yes.
You paid the expenses, right?
Yeah.
You paid people salaries, correct?
No.
And at the time that you were managing these two entities, you did not believe them to be fraudulent, correct? I'm still only talking from the 15th to August.
Yes.
And you continued to pay expenses for IT engineers, correct?
No, I stopped.
You stopped paying them even though they were still working. You stopped paying them?
Yes, I stopped early 2023.
Early 2023?
Yeah.
And you continued to vote on the Rule of Law Foundations Board, correct?
No.
When did you stop Rule of Law Foundation Board?
July 2023.
So you continued in March, right? April, May, June, July?
But between this time period, no vote.
I didn't ask you if you voted, ma'am. I asked you if you remained a member of the Rule of Law Foundations Board.
Mr. Ferguson said, Your Honor, if she's giving responsive answers, Ms. Schroff should not be arguing with her.
Ms. Shrofa said, I'll rephrase the question, Your Honor. I think Mr. Ferguson overstates his point.
The court said, is there a question?
I believe my last question was to her was. She remained on the board of the Rule of Law Foundation until July of 2023.
The court said, you may answer that.
Yes.
And you continued to manage investments in H-Coin from March 15th of 2023 until August, correct?
What do you mean manage H-Coin?
Well, you were managing an investment to buy a bank for the movement, correct?
You mean D2 Bank project?
Right.
It stopped.
I understand that. My question was it continued from March 15th until August, correct?
No, it finished.
In what year?
2022.
2022?
April 2022.
April of 2022?
Yeah, we already sent them all the D2 bank money to Hamilton Farm. Then after that nothing happened.
My question wasn't whether anything happened. My question was, you did not take any steps to withdraw from any of these transactions, correct?
What do you mean withdraw from these transactions?
I'll move on. You remember giving testimony about HCHK?
Yes.
And you read about HCHK and the indictment, correct?
Yes.
And when you read about HCHK and the indictment, that is when you got worried, correct?
Got what?
Is that when you started to get worried, concerned, scared?
Concerned, not scared.
You were concerned because you were a director of HCHK, correct?
No, because I thought that's a Rule of Law Foundation is a charity, but now coming out is a company. That's totally different.
And you were on as the director, right?
Yes, I've been misled by Miles Gwa.
I understand. You were misled by Miles Gwa. My question to you is, ma'am, you were worried because your name was on the document, correct?
That's no my name, just company's name.
Which company?
HV.
And whose name was associated with HCHK?
Gov't 1.
And not yours?
No,
So your name was not there at all?
not on the document, but I know I'm another director.
Now, you testified on direct, Ms. Lee, that you were approached to sign a document in connection with Mr. Gwa's bankruptcy, correct?
Yes,
And you testified by a lawyer for Ms. Wang, correct?
yes.
And what was the lawyer's name, by the way?
Alex Lipman.
After Mr. Lipman had approached you, you were approached by another lawyer, correct?
I don't remember.
You don't remember. You testified about it yesterday?
There were many lawyers, but I remember Alex Lipman sent the email to ask me to sign that document.
And then after that you were approached by another lawyer, correct?
Yeah,
And could I have GX 121 pulled up? You remember the other lawyer's name is Yong Bingjong. Maybe we could show her a photo.
Mr. Ferguson said, Your Honor, may I have just a moment to talk to defense counsel very briefly?
The court said yes.
Counsel conferred.
I've shown you what is DX 6053, correct?
yes.
Who's that?
Yongbing.
Is this the lawyer that also approached you on behalf of Ms. Wang?
Yes.
And he brought you a document that he wanted you to sign, correct?
Not him, it's Alex Lipman send me. He sent me the false affidavit. That's a different document.
That's the document I'm talking about, the false affidavit according to you, right?
Yes,
Ms. Shrofa said, and, by the way, could I move this into evidence?
Mr. Ferguson said, No objection.
The court said, it is admitted.
And he asked you to sign this?
The court said, what is the number of the exhibit again?
Ms. Shrofa said, 60503.
Defendant's Exhibit 60503 received in evidence. By Ms. Shrofa.
We're no longer talking about the Alex Lipman document which was sent to you via email, okay?
okay.
We're talking about the document that he brought for you, correct?
Yeah,
And you testified yesterday, right, that he threatened you when you refused to sign it, correct?
yes.
And I just want to be clear. He did not threaten you with any violence, correct?
Not physically.
He did not threaten you with any physical violence, correct?
Yeah,
He did not threaten to brand you a CCP spy, correct?
yeah,
I'm correct, right?
yeah,
He did not threaten to brand you a CCP spy?
yeah,
By, yeah, you mean I'm correct?
yes.
He did not threaten to kick you out of the movement, correct?
Sorry. Can you say it again?
He did not threaten to kick you out of the movement, correct?
But I feel like that.
My question to you was, did he threaten you that you're going to get kicked out of the movement if you don't sign the affidavit?
Make me feel like that.
That's how you felt. My question is, did he use any words and threaten you?
Yes,
He used words to threaten you and said, if you don't sign this you'll be kicked out of the movement?
make me feel like that.
I didn't ask you if he made you feel like that, ma'am. My question to was, which you still haven't answered, is whether or not he used words to threaten you.
He used.
Now you're saying he used the words?
Yes,
So this man threatened you and said, if you don't sign this affidavit, we're going to throw you out of the movement?
the message make me feel like that.
Okay, but the message did not have those words, correct?
It's a threatening message.
Tell me what was the message? Tell me what was threatening about the message?
He said as Alliance legal team, this is my full responsible for this alliance if this case we lose. We lose $38 million, I'm fully responsible for that.
Right. But he never threatened to throw you out of the movement, right?
That make me feel like that.
That's what it made you feel like, but he never said those words to you.
Mr. Ferguson said, Asked and answered.
Ms. Shrofa said, it's never been answered.
The court said, did you say something?
Mr. Ferguson said, I think that was Ms. Schroff.
The court said, sustained. Let's move on.
Can you show her Long Island David's photo, please? Who's that?
Brother Long Island Chung Dao.
Also known as Brother Long Island David, correct?
Yes.
Ms. Shrofa said, I move this document into evidence, DX 6498.
Mr. Ferguson said, no objection.
The court said, it is admitted.
Defendant's Exhibit 6498 received in evidence. By Ms. Shrofa.
He's part of the movement, right?
Yes.
He's the leader of some farm, correct?
Used to be Mountain Spice's farm leader.
And you interacted with him, right?
Yes.
Frequently, in fact, right?
Yes, because we are in Iron Blood Group.
You interacted with him even outside of Iron Blood Group, right?
No.
No?
No.
When was the last time you spoke to Long Island David, this man?
I don't remember.
Was it last month?
No.
Was it the month before?
No.
Do you remember if it was the month before?
No.
In fact, you don't know if you spoke to him in 2024 because you don't remember now, correct?
I left in November 2023.
My question wasn't when you left. My question was, ma'am, whether or not you continued to talk to Long Island David in 2024.
No.
Since Mr. was arrested, did you continue to do business with him?
What do you mean business?
Did you continue to interact with him?
Yes.
Did you continue to talk about entities with him?
Yes.
And that was after Mr. was arrested, right?
Yes.
And sitting here today, you don't know if that went into 2024, correct?
Mr. Ferguson said, objection.
Yes.
The court said, asked and answered. Sustained.
Turning back now to your communication with Mr. Zhang, right?
Who?
Yong, the photo right before. Let's pull him back up. He's the one who asked you to sign the false affidavit, correct?
Yes.
And he told you, according to you, that if you did not sign it, the alliance would lose $35 million, correct?
Yes.
And you didn't sign that document, right?
Yes.
And you didn't sign that document because you wanted the money to go back to the HCHK creditors, correct?
No, I didn't sign because it's false.
You didn't sign it because it's false, correct?
Yes.
And if you had signed it, the money would have gone back, not to the bankruptcy trustee, correct?
Mr. Ferguson said, objection, calls for a legal conclusion.
The court said, sustained.
You read the affidavit, right?
Yes.
You believed it was false, correct?
Yes.
You also believed that he believed it was true, correct?
Mr. Ferguson said, objection to form.
The court said, sustained.
You wanted the $38 million to go to the bankruptcy trustee, correct?
Mr. Ferguson said, objection.
The court said, you can answer.
Sorry. Can you repeat?
You wanted the $38 million to go to the bankruptcy trustee, correct?
Not I wanted, but because there's already a TRO there.
So you thought it right for the money to go to the bankruptcy trustee, right?
Mr. Ferguson said, asked and answered.
Ms. Shrofa said, actually, she hasn't answered it.
The court said, you can answer.
Can you say it again?
Ms. Shrofa said, I'm sorry to impose on you, but can you read her the question?
Record was read?
Yeah, it's right.
And HA is one of HCHK's creditors, correct?
No.
HA had loaned money to HCHK, correct?
I sent money to HCHK Technologies, but the contract signed with New Zealand company.
Ma'am, my question was whether the money had been sent to HCHK, not who the contract was signed with.
The court said, is there an objection?
Mr. Ferguson said, she answered the question, Your Honor. Ms. Shroff can't characterize the evidence.
The court said, sustained.
Did HCHK owe HA money?
No, that's for buy GTV share, not a real loan.
I could not hear her.
That's for buy GTV shares, not for the loan.
For whatever the reason was, HCHK, the question really was. You answered a different question. So I just want to make clear. Ms. Shrofa said, Your Honor, may we approach?
The court said, you asked the question and part of her answer was no, so move on.
The Mountain of Spice Fund/farm had loaned money, correct?
No. I don't know. It's another farm. I don't know.
You don't know?
I don't know.
So, as a member of the Iron Blood Group, you do not know what other monies was sent to HCHK?
I don't know.
You do know this much that the farms got their money from members, correct?
Yes.
And they were US members, correct?
Which farm?
The Mountain of Spice farm got money from US members, correct?
Each farm have members all over the world, not only from US.
And all of those proceeds went into the loans, correct?
It's not a loan. It's for buy GTV shares.
Okay, whatever you decided it is.
Not I decided. Miles Guo said.
The court said, the witness has said it was not a loan.
Was there a loan agreement executed?
What do you mean executed?
Signed.
Signed only by farm. No one signed that.
But it was still signed, correct? By one entity, correct?
By farm.
The farm signed the document, correct?
Yeah.
As a result of that signature, money left an account, correct?
Sorry.
Money left an account and went into HCHK, correct?
You talking about which farm, which transaction?
Let me try it this way. The trustee. The bankruptcy trustee was to recover money and return it to creditors. That was your understanding, correct?
Yes.
And one of the creditors was HA, correct?
No.
Mr. Ferguson said, asked and answered.
The court said, sustained.
The trustee sued HA in February of 2024, correct?
I don't remember.
In February of 2024 you controlled HA, correct?
What's the date?
February of 2024. We're in June now.
Yeah.
February, March, April, May, June.
Yeah.
So February of 2024, the trustee sued HA, correct?
I don't know what do you mean by sue. Which case?
Brought a lawsuit, a civil lawsuit to collect money from HA?
Yes.
Right. And even though they brought the lawsuit, you never turned over any money from HA to the trustee, correct?
Sorry. I never what?
Ms. Shrofa said, I'm sorry to do this, but can you just read her the question back?
Record was read.
No.
Right. And instead, you transferred the assets of HA to someone else, correct? And that was, let me just refresh your recollection, in May of 2024?
Yes.
Okay. So May of 2024, you transferred it over to someone else, correct? Who was that?
I don't know. Alliance decide.
I didn't ask you who decided. I just asked you who you transferred the fund to.
I don't know.
You don't know?
I just asked them to take over from me. I don't want involved anymore.
But they hadn't take over from you, correct?
Mr. Ferguson said, Your Honor, we've covered it, I think.
Ms. Shrofa said, we have not.
The court said, you may answer.
What's your question? I told everything to Luke. He knows.
Who's Duke?
Luke Despens.
I didn't ask you if you'd done anything like that, so I moved to strike. My question to you, ma'am, was whether or not you transferred HA over entirely to someone else.
Yes.
Okay. And that was not Luke Despens, correct? That's someone else? It was not Luke, right?
Yes.
It was not the bankruptcy trustee, right?
Yes.
Okay. And you told these prosecutors that you had done that, correct?
Done what?
The transfer.
Yeah.
In May of 2024, you told that to Mr. Ferguson, correct?
Yes.
And that is why he included HA in your non-prosecution agreement, correct?
Yes.
And he included that not in the first draft, but in the final version because you're the one who pointed it out that it wasn't in the first version, correct?
Mr. Ferguson said, Objection on getting into her discussions with her counsel, Your Honor.
Ms. Shrofa said, I'm talking about her discussion.
The court said, overruled. You may answer.
Can you say it again?
They gave you a draft non-prosecution agreement, correct?
Yes.
HA is not mentioned, right?
Yes.
Then they gave you a final version, correct?
Yes.
They added an HA, correct? You got coverage for HA, correct?
Yes.
Now, you've testified on direct that you resigned from your position after meeting with the FBI, correct?
Yes.
And it is also your testimony that after you resigned, the police showed up, correct? The Chinese police showed up, you said?
Yes.
And you testified that they showed up and they said they were acting on the orders of the Ministry of State Security, correct?
Yes.
And the Ministry of State Security is the same people that were hounding Mr. Gov't, correct?
I don't know.
Didn't he tell you that many times in the broadcast that you listened to at that time?
At that time I don't know is that true or not.
I didn't ask you if it was true or not. I asked you if Mr. Gov't said that.
He said before.
So you understand the difference between my asking you something.
Mr. Ferguson said, Your Honor.
Ms. Schrofa said, I withdraw it. You think, according to your testimony yesterday, that it was Mr. Gov't who sent the MSS to visit your relatives. Is that your testimony?
Mr. Ferguson said, That's mischaracterizing the testimony.
The court said, sustained. That was not her testimony.
Who do you think sent the MSS to your relatives?
CCP.
You think CCP sent them? You think the CCP sent the MSS to your relatives because you were talking with the FBI to testify against Miles Gov't?
Mr. Ferguson said, again, object to form. She answered the question and now it's a compound question.
The court said, sustained.
The MSS visited your family, correct?
Yes.
You believed that it was the CCP who sent them?
Yes.
The CCP who is the enemy of Miles Gov't?
I don't know.
So now you think Miles Gov't is a spy for the CCP?
What? Sorry.
So now you think Miles Gov't is an agent of the CCP?
I don't know.
Ms. Lee, part of your testimony yesterday is that you received H-coin from the Alliance, correct?
Yes.
And that is not the only currency that you received from farm members, correct?
I don't understand. What do you mean?
You received money from the United States and Japan members, right? Who sent their money to HA, correct?
The Japan farm and the US farm, yes.
They sent money, correct?
Yes.
And that was in dollars, correct?
Yes.
Not in H-coin, correct?
Yes.
And you received that money to buy H-coin for members who are otherwise not allowed to purchase it, correct?
Yes.
And after doing that, you took a fee, correct?
I took what?
A fee, like a charge?
No.
Your testimony is that you did not charge a 3% fee that went to HA?
No, 0.
You did not charge a 3% fee, that's your testimony?
No, Hamilton charge, not me.
No.
Mr. Ferguson said, Your Honor, she can't argue. She can ask questions and the witness answered.
The court said, don't testify.
HA got a fee of 3%, correct?
No.
Mr. Ferguson said, asked and answered.
The court said, sustained.
The money came to HA, right?
Yes.
Is it your testimony that the entire amount without a fee was transferred?
Yes.
And you received?
I transfer under Brother Island Chungdao's direction.
So it was not under Miles Gov's direction now. It's under Long Island David's direction?
Miles Gov't give Island Chungdao direction, and Island Chungdao give me direction.
Okay. And none of these questions are questions I asked you, right? You just volunteered that information now?
Mr. Ferguson said, objection.
The court said, counsel.
You received money from farm members into your Ashwood fund, correct?
Sorry.
You remember Ashwood, the fund that you had?
Yes.
Right, you remember it?
Yes.
It got money, correct?
Yes.
In US dollars, correct?
Yes.
In other currency, correct?
No.
Just in US dollars, right?
Yes.
And your testimony is that you did not charge a fee there either, even though you were managing the fund?
That fund charge money.
The fund charge.
Charge management fee, yes.
Ashwood?
Yes.
Charged a management fee?
Yes.
3%?
I don't remember exactly.
You don't remember?
Yeah, but there's a fee, but I don't remember if it's 3% or not.
I'm not going to ask you again, but you are the person incorporating Ashwood Fund, right?
On behalf of Miles Gwa.
Of course, but you're the one who ran the fund, right?
Yes.
The money came to you, right?
Not me, to Alliance.
No.
Not me, not myself.
The court said, "Don't testify."
The money came to the HA fund, right?
Mr. Ferguson said, asked and answered.
The court said, "Sustained."
You used the money in both funds to purchase H-Coin, correct?
Mr. Ferguson said, we're repeating now, Your Honor.
The court said, "Sustained."
By the way, did you use the money at Ashwood to invest in a bank?
D2 Bank.
I'm sorry.
D2 Bank.
So the answer is yes. You used the money in the Ashwood Fund to invest in a digital bank, correct?
Yes.
The investment in this digital bank was in the name of Ashwood, correct?
Yes.
It was not in the name of the farm members who put in the money, correct?
Yes.
And the amount of money that you managed or controlled only on behalf of Miles Gwa or the Alliance, I'm sure, was in the millions of dollars, correct?
Mr. Ferguson said, Your Honor, the commentary is uncalled for.
It was in the millions of dollars, correct?
8 million.
And your testimony is under 8 million. You charge no fee, correct?
Mr. Ferguson said, we've covered this.
This recharge fee.
The court said, "Sustained." So we've established that she personally has not charged a fee, according to her.
According to you, the fund charged the fee, right?
Yes.
Now, as a result of this non-prosecution agreement that you have with Mr. Ferguson and his office, they are not going to prosecute you here, correct?
If I'm telling the truth, provide the evidence.
Right. As long as you do what they asked you to do, they will give you coverage, correct?
No.
Ma'am, they've agreed to give you coverage through the non-prosecution agreement, correct?
Yes.
And as a result of that non-prosecution agreement, they did not ask you to turn over any money, correct?
Sorry.
They haven't asked you to turn over any money, right?
What do you mean turn over what money?
Any money from Ashwood, HA, they have not asked you to turn over any money, correct?
No.
And they never asked you to turn over any H-Coin, correct?
Yes.
And now they have given you coverage. The United States government has given you coverage, correct?
Yes.
And you testified at one point you were worried about the U.S. government, right? You were worried that they would arrest you. Is that right?
Because Island Changdao said at that time I believe that FBI is CCP.
All right. But now you're no longer worried about that, right?
Yes.
And now you are worried about the CCP, correct?
Yes.
And the best way to get rid of the CCP is to testify against Miles Gwa, correct?
Mr. Ferguson said, objection.
The court said, "Sustained."
The only way you can safely go back to China is if you disavow your relationship with Mr. Miles Gwa, correct?
Mr. Ferguson said, objection.
The court said, "I'll allow her to answer that question."
No.
The court said, "Next question."
Could I show her? Let's call it DX 7000. Do you recognize it, ma'am?
Yes.
What is it?
It's Miles Gwa's broadcast.
And you've seen it before, right?
Yes.
Ms. Schrofa said, I moved Defense Exhibit 7000 into evidence.
Mr. Ferguson said, no objection.
The court said, "It is admitted."
Defendant's Exhibit 7000 received in evidence.
Ms. Schrofa said, May I publish it to the jury, Your Honor?
The court said yes.
Tell us, please, starting on the left-hand corner, who's the first man over there?
Left, Lao Banzhang.
Who's that?
Lao Banzhang used to be the Iron Blood Group member and the New Zealand farm leader.
Who's below him?
Ru Shui.
Who is Ru Shui?
Ru Shui also one of the Iron Blood Group member and the one farm leader.
But let's stay with you, Ru Shui, now. Below that, tell the jury who those two are.
Hao Tian and Dao Haidang.
Let's start with the male. Who's he? In the photo on the left, there are two people in there, right?
Hao Haidong and Hao Tian.
He is the soccer player, correct?
Yes.
That's his wife, correct?
Yes.
Olympic badminton player, correct?
Yes.
For China, correct?
Yes.
And you know sitting here today that both of them now live in Spain, correct?
Yes.
And in the middle are two individuals, correct?
Yes.
I certainly don't need you to identify Miles Guo, but tell the jury who's next to him.
Brother Long Island Changdao.
And who's on the right corner over there?
Taoying Chago Grassroot brother.
And he's the leader of the Japan Fund?
Japan Fund and Iron Blood Group member.
So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 people so far, correct?
Yeah.
This is from the VOA anniversary, right? Anniversary of April 19th, 2017 interview, right?
Yes.
And the only person in this meeting that has not shown her face because of worry for the CCP is you?
I just don't want to show my face.
Exactly, because you're worried about the CCP, correct?
Yes.
And you're worried that the CCP will associate you with his movement, correct?
They already associate.
Right. And the best way for you to disassociate with him is to testify against him here?
No.
Isn't that a way to disassociate with him?
That's because he did something wrong. He steal people's money. That's different.
But that's your opinion, right? That he stole money?
This a fact.
You believe that to be a fact, ma'am?
Yes.
A fact according to you, right?
According to my personal experience.
Exactly. Just you?
Mr. Ferguson said, asked and answered.
The court said, sustained.
You're the only one who's not showing her face, correct?
Mr. Ferguson said, asked and answered.
The court said, sustained.
And that is the avatar of Mulan, correct?
Yes.
The woman who wants to fight like a man, right?
Yes.
And the safest way for you to go back to China is to say, I do not associate with him?
Mr. Ferguson said, asked and answered.
No.
The court said, sustained.
I come here and I show my face.
The court said, let's move on.
You came here. You showed your face and testified against Miles Guo, correct?
I just tell the truth.
Mr. Ferguson said, she should be allowed to answer the question that's posed, Your Honor.
Ms. Schrofa said, I have just one last question, Your Honor.
The court said, okay.
When you were associated with his movement, you never once showed your face, correct?
Yes.
Ms. Schrofa said, no further questions.
The court said, redirect.
Mr. Ferguson said, thank you, Your Honor.
Redirect examination. By Mr. Ferguson.
Good afternoon, Ms. Lee.
Good afternoon, Ferguson.
You were asked some questions about monthly payments of $10,000 from Rule of Law Foundation. Do you recall those questions?
Yes.
So just to start, when did those monthly payments, the $10,000 monthly payments, around when did those begin?
From July 2021.
And we'll come back to those payments. But before that time, how long had you been volunteering for Miles Guo approximately?
About 4 years.
What sort of hours did you work volunteering for Guo?
Many hours.
Did you work on weekends?
Every day.
Did you work at night?
Yes.
And in July 2021, did you request to start getting paid?
No.
What happened that led to these $10,000 monthly payments?
From that time Miles Guo asked every farm leader and Iron Blood Group member need to work full-time for the alliance.
And before July 2021, did you have a paying job as an accountant?
Yes.
What was your response when Miles Guo said you had to work full-time for the alliance?
I said I still can work voluntarily, but he insists you should quit your job and work for me full-time.
What did you do after he told you that?
So the next day I asked my company, I quit, I resign.
How long were you paid the $10,000 each month?
About 1 year.
And was this $10,000 payment, was it just to you or was it to all the Iron Blood Group members?
All the Iron Blood Group members.
You also testified that after about a year or so the payments changed to H-Coin?
Yes.
When Gov't began paying farm leaders with H-Coin, what, if anything, did he say about Himalaya Exchange's bank account being seized by the US government?
Yes, that's a similar time. So Himalaya Exchange is not function.
And when he started paying people in H-Coin, did he tell them that the bank account had been seized?
Ms. Shrofa said, "Objection, Your Honor. It misstates facts in evidence. There's no evidence that Mr. Gov't didn't pay."
The court said, overruled.
When Gov't started paying farm leaders with H-Coin later in 2022, did he disclose that the bank account for Himalaya Exchange had been seized?
No.
By the way, Ms. Lee, what do you do for work now?
Accountant.
Ms. Loftus, can we please publish Government Exhibit 6-114? Ms. Lee, this is the Ampleforth Capital Ltd subscription document. Do you remember being asked questions about this on cross-examination?
Yes.
And you were asked about whether the government showed you this document in meetings. Do you recall that?
Yes.
Did you give this document to the government in the first instance?
Yes, I sent it to the government.
And the other documents you were asked about whether you looked at them with the government. Did you give those to the government in the first instance too?
Yes.
Ms. Shrofa said, "Which ones, Your Honor?"
Mr. Ferguson said, the ones she was asked about on cross.
Yes, I give the U.S. government.
Ms. Loftus, if we could please publish Government Exhibit 6-29. Now, Ms. Lee. This is the voice message you transcribed and translated for Miles Gov't. Do you recall being asked about this on cross?
Yes.
You were asked questions about related to G-clubs in this, do you recall that?
Yes.
Whether Aaron Mitchell was the lawyer for G-clubs. Do you remember those questions?
Yes.
Ms. Lee, let me just read paragraph A. The family fund offering the final price is $26 million. Does that say G-Club is offering the final price or the family fund?
Family fund.
When you got this, did you think G-Clubs was playing for this $26 million mansion?
No.
We can take it down, Ms. Loftus. Ms. Lee, you were also asked questions about the blacklist. Do you remember being asked questions about that?
Yes.
Can you just explain to the jury the way the blacklist worked?
If someone publicly criticized Miles Gov't or Alliance or New Federal State of China, and then we would put them on the blacklist and approved by Miles Gov't. And there's a get your count to publicly show the blacklist.
Ms. Lee, you were also asked about protest. Do you remember being asked about protest?
Yes.
Who picked the targets of the protest?
Miles Gov't.
Who said well done about the violence?
Miles Gov't.
You were also asked about being threatened by Zhang Yongbing. Do you remember those questions?
Yes.
Why did you feel like you were being threatened to be kicked out of the movement? Could you explain to the jury why it felt that way?
Because he asked me to fully responsible for that $38 million. I can't repay. If we lose the case, I can't pay back that much money. I don't have that money. I only have one life they can take.
I won't ask you more about that. You were also asked about being sued by the U.S. bankruptcy trustee.
Yes.
Ms. Lee, are you cooperating with the U.S. bankruptcy trustee?
Yes.
Do you have any formal agreement, or are you just being helpful where asked?
Ms. Shrofa said, "Objection, compound."
The court said, break it down, please.
Could you please describe what you mean? How are you helping the bankruptcy trustee?
I voluntarily contact bankruptcy trustee Luke Despens and explain to him what happened and every document I provided to him.
Ms. Lee, do you remember being asked about the Ashwood Fund?
Yes.
Who asked you to set up the Ashwood Fund?
Miles Gov't.
What was the Ashwood Fund used to do?
To do GTV bank investment.
Was that a Miles Gov't investment project?
Yes.
Ms. Lee, You were asked questions yesterday on cross-examination about meetings or emails or phone calls with the government. Do you remember being asked those questions?
Yes.
Do you recall having meetings with the government?
Yes.
Do you recall sending emails to the government?
Yes.
Do you recall having phone calls with the FBI?
Yes.
Do you recall all the exact dates of the meetings with the government?
No.
Do you recall all the exact dates of every email you sent to the government?
No.
Do you recall all the exact dates of every phone call you had with the FBI?
No.
Ms. Lee, when you met with the government, what, if anything, did the government tell you to do in your testimony?
I have to tell the truth.
What are you required to do when you testify under your non-prosecution agreement?
I have to tell the truth.
And before you had a non-prosecution agreement, why did you refuse to sign the false affidavit?
Because that's false. That's lie to the court. That's I don't want to do.
And before you had a non-prosecution agreement, why did you voluntarily travel to the United States to testify?
Because I want to tell the court Miles were misleading me, cheated me, and lied to me.
You still believe in democracy in China, Ms. Lee?
Yes.
Are you testifying today because the CCP forced you to testify?
No. Even now after testify because I show my face, I'm even in greater risk to the CCP.
Did you testify yesterday and today in your real name?
Yes.
Did you show your real face to these jurors?
Yes.
To this whole public courtroom?
Yes.
Did you tell the truth in your testimony, Ms. Lee?
Yes.
Mr. Ferguson said, no further questions.
The court said recross.
Recross-examination. By Ms. Schrofa.
You gave documents to the prosecutors, correct?
Yes.
You kept all those documents, correct?
Yes.
Continued on next page. By Ms. Schrofa.
You sent them to him, right?
Yes.
Did you read them before you sent them to him?
Yes.
You read them before you sent them to him and then you discussed them with him, correct?
Yes.
And you decided which documents to save, correct?
I decide.
Right. And you decided which documents you wanted to delete, correct?
I don't delete.
You didn't give him documents about the HA management fees, correct?
Sorry.
Did you give him any documents about the internal workings of HA?
Yeah.
Really? You gave them to him.
Mr. Ferguson said, objection to the commentary on really.
You gave this prosecutor documents pertaining to the internal workings of the HA fund. That's your testimony?
Mr. Ferguson said, asked and answered.
The court said, asked and answered.
What document are you referred to?
The court said, you don't need to answer.
How about for Archwood? Did you give them any contracts that you had with Archwood?
Yes.
You gave them to him.
Yes.
You gave him email exchanges pertaining to your running of Archwood, this prosecutor.
Can you say it again?
This prosecutor asked you questions again about a place called Mawa. Ms. Schrofa said, can we pull it up for her again? This document, right?
Yes.
How many times did you discuss this document with Mr. Ferguson when you prepared?
I don't remember.
Ms. Schrofa said, could I show her page 2? Do you see point number 1 up there? This house cannot have any more restrictions on how to living or using. Correct?
Yes.
This point is saying that the person who wants to buy the house does not want to be restricted to using it simply as a home. Correct?
Mr. Ferguson said, objection.
I don't know.
The court said, sustained.
What is your understanding of point 1?
I don't know. I just translate.
So you have no understanding of point 1, sitting here today.
Yeah.
Mr. Ferguson said, asked and answered.
The court said, sustained.
You testified about a digital bank project, correct, right now on Redirect?
Yes.
Do you know if the project is still alive?
No, because
You don't, I'm sorry.
it's already seized by DOJ.
I didn't ask you if the money was seized. I'm asking you if the project to get a digital bank is still alive.
Mr. Ferguson said, she answered the question, Your Honor.
No. No.
The court said, you may answer.
You don't know because you're no longer involved, correct?
It stopped. Finished.
You're no longer part of this movement, correct?
Yes.
You don't know what is going on in this movement now, correct?
Yes.
You don't know, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Now.
This project, I know, stopped. We send it to the Hamilton Fund.
Ms. Schrofa said, move to strike.
The court said, there was not any question pending. These comments are stricken.
You testified now that you were given a false affidavit, correct, and you refused to sign it, right?
Yes.
And then you further testified that you wanted to come and testify here, correct?
Yes.
And the prosecutor asked you questions whether you were using your real face, correct?
Yes.
And he asked you if you were using your real voice, correct?
Yes.
And that is what you did.
Mr. Ferguson said, I didn't ask that.
The court said, sustained.
Ms. Schrofa said, what did he say? Real name. You're testifying under your real name, right?
Yes.
Real name and real face, correct?
Yes.
And you, I just want to be very clear, are testifying against Miles Gwa, correct?
No.
Are you testifying for him?
I testify to tell the truth.
You've said that. My question was.
Mr. Ferguson said, Your Honor, asked and answered. She answered the question.
Ms. Schrofa said, no, she didn't, actually.
The court said, you can answer.
Please repeat your question.
You're testifying for the government against Miles Gwa.
No.
Ms. Schrofa said, okay. I have nothing further. Thank you, Your Honor.
Mr. Ferguson said, no further questions.
The court said, thank you. You may step out.
Witness excused.